time for another car launch, or is it a livery launch, or even a season launch? Let's find out. My name is Martyn Lee, and we dispatched our man Matt Kew, who is there right now at Williams to have a look at the FW45. So what have you seen today? Is it a new car, or just some new paint? What do you make of it?
Well, we're a bit like Red Bull again. I suppose these early ones, they're called season launches, but a bit more streamlined than the Red Bull ones. So no hearing from snowboarders or skateboarders. This was sort of much more of a brisk. I think I timed, recording all the interviews. I think it was 13 minutes for the main presentation. So hearing from all the key partners and the new drivers, and then whipping off the dust cover. And what we've got, well, it's last year's car to begin with for the presentation, and it's a lightly revised livery, I think we can say. So it's all blue for starters, which by the end of last year, the Williams certainly wasn't as many teams grasped with that minimum weight limit. We saw all the carbon fibre coming off, stripped, whereas this is all blue to start with. It's also matte. That supposedly is interesting. It's no longer gloss, it's matte. But I suppose me saying that is because it's clutching at straws. It's sort of more of the same, building up that Duracell branding and that sort of continuation of the modern Williams. The two things to note really of a lot of sponsors that you would recognise have gone. So Lavazza, Safina, that was Nicholas Latifi bringing those to the table, but in its place is Golf. So parting company with McLaren and coming to Williams, but don't expect something to match the sort of GT40s or any of those really iconic ones. It's a few stickers for now, but we're promised that more sort of fan involvement and special liveries will come. But for now, I think it's you wouldn't set your phases to be stunned. I think in a Star Trek sense, it's be more conservative than that.
Yeah, with a new Gulf sponsorship, I didn't think we were going to see a Williams covered in orange. There's another team that's got that sorted out already. But it is a big year for the team with a new team principal in James Vowles and a rookie driver, Logan Sargeant. Let's talk about the team principal decision first of all. Was he there? Is he active in the team yet? Let's talk gardening leave. And actually your impression of that hire as well. What, were you surprised? What do you think of it?
Oh yeah, we're completely surprised. We were a lot of us Autosport colleagues were together at the show at the Birmingham NEC, book your tickets for 2023. But when that announcement landed, we were all surprised. It's quite a big hire, and it seems like the last 18 months of Formula One, it's all been about the worst kept secrets. Whether it be Porsche breaking up with Red Bull or Audi coming in, but the Vowles is a really genuine and pleasant surprise. He's, I suppose, conspicuous by his absence today. That's because he's on this gardening leave until February the 20th. What's he done so far? He's had dinner with a couple of the drivers and spoken to a few people, but it's been sort of brief communication. He's sort of obviously respecting that period before he can join. So the main sort of team side today is the main figurehead has been Sven Smeets, who's the sporting director, and he's sort of almost notable for still being here because he was really part of that, the Volkswagen trifecta, which was Jos Capito, FX Demajon, and Sven Smeets. And obviously FX Demajon, the technical director, and Jos Capito, they've both gone. Obviously still some deliberation over whether they were ousted or whether they left of their own accord. The line that we're hearing now is very much that Jos Capito was happy to delay his retirement for a couple of years, but not get into a 5-10 year plan. FX is sort of somewhere in the middle of that. But I think the real exciting thing is Vowles coming in because, I think there was some suggestion that Williams, with the state of F1, how commercially successful it is, that Dorilton could be a flight risk. They could go somewhere else. But luring Vowles away from the Mercedes project and giving him his own remit, and the fact that, Formula One teams are slow moving. So you're not going to judge any Williams success this year or any failure on what Vowles can do the minute he gets in the door. He's needed a couple of years to create this team in his own image, so he's not going to have been and sold that necessarily if Dalton are going to sell up and go. So I think it's bright for a longer term future, but the word from the drivers is that it's evolution rather than revolution with the car, and if everyone else, all the other teams are evolving their concept, then you wouldn't expect Williams to be sort of fighting for wins anytime soon. I think we can say politely.
Yeah, they've been fighting at the back for such a long time that morale will be a big thing that James Vowles needs to get a hand on. But also a lot of people have been at the team for a long time. When you get into that situation, there can be a little bit of, well, we've always done it this way, so he's going to have to certainly try and change a few things. They want to move up the grid, but he's a fantastic hire. He's going to have a bit of driver management to do as well. Let's talk about one of those, new signing Logan Sargeant. What do you make of that signing?
An interesting one. Obviously, it was one of the final acts Jos Capito did was sort of, sign his contract and say, yeah, we're going to validate the Williams Academy. We're going to take this guy. It was actually Capito that sort of took Sargeant from an underwhelming F3 team and gave him a shot at the F2 title and then made him an F1 protege. So he was talking a little bit actually about Capito and the influence he had and how it'd be sad not to work with him more closely. But obviously in the media rounds, he's conducted himself very well. He's at a slight disadvantage, I suppose, coming in for this year because we've only got the 3 days of running in at Bahrain. He doesn't have that sort of Barcelona test to get up to speed with ground effects. So it's a task ahead of him. I suppose you might say he can do his learning out of the limelight because, Williams is expected to be towards the back, but he's also an American. And yes, he's done the European single-seater ladder, so he's not vastly established in the United States, but, it's something to latch onto. So there will be eyes on him. But the main thing he's been saying is qualifying is his bread and butter. So he wants to be judged mainly on a Saturday when the car's at its lightest and it's at its most lively. And the other thing they've been really talking about is that him and Albon have spent very little time together so far, a couple of days in the sim, but they're not really that, they're chummy at the minute, but they've not got that strong rapport. So it's something they'll need to sort of build up and start working together. But he's conducted himself very well, but obviously doesn't count for an awful lot if he's a second off the pace.
Absolutely. Well, let's finish off by talking about the technical work that they need to do. Last I heard, there was still no technical director appointed, but may know more than I. You're literally there today. There might be some news, but also, what do you think finally William have to do from a technical perspective that's ahead of them to move up the grid?
Yeah, so at the minute, the line that they've used a couple of times, so you sort of believe it to be true, is that it's sort of like organised chaos here. So one, that's because of the build time. They've got a filming day at Silverstone next week. So having a car ready to, even if it's, only 100 kilometres an hour or so that they're allowed to do, you still get some data out of that. This time last year, teams were first learning of porpoising at that speed on the blowy filming day. So getting a proper car turned up for them is obviously very important for that, as well as all, your commercial deals. The other sort of element that they're saying is, okay, the day-to-day running hasn't necessarily changed because you've been in lieu of a technical director, but that point needs to come when you're sort of picking up design philosophies and all of that. But again, like I said, it's evolution. We've been told we can expect sort of a different design in side pod, but as we know last year, they were like the main visual cues, the dramatic side pods that different teams took, but it's obviously the underfloor aero. That's the concept when people talk about car philosophy. That's the bit they're really referring to, not what the side pods are. And we're told it's evolution on that. The main thing the drivers are looking forward to from the sim, and if everything correlates, is that low speed performance. So there's a lot of locking up at low speed in last year's Williams, a lot of unpredictability with car balance. And so they're the areas where they feel a lot more confident, a lot more happy. So if you think, the first time we'll see these is Bahrain. You've got that 9-10 sequence, that really sort of downhill, sharp left-hand off camber. So if you're inside, wheel's going to lock up anywhere, it's going to be there. So they're happy that they've made improvements in that area. But there's not been a massive change of infrastructure over one winter, not a huge change of personnel in terms of who've been here long enough to influence car direction. So if everyone else is, and there's every reason to expect taking a similar step forward under the cost cap, which means even if Doralton wanted to, they couldn't write a blank check for this team to move forward. I think we're still looking at someone who's going to be fighting for occasional points at best in Williams.
Well, thank you very much, Matt, for bringing us the latest from Williams. Even if it's not a 2023 car, not that we've seen one of those yet, we're pretty sure we're not going to see anyone anytime soon. But next video is going to be the Alfa Romeo launch, livery launch, season launch, whatever they want to call it. That will be our next video that we make here on the channel. Make sure, if you like this video, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our launch season videos. And we'll see you on the next one.